I've got something cool for you today. I finally found an off-brand head unit that doesn't suck. Not only that, it has Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, and a fantastic 10-inch touchscreen, all for about 300 bucks. Let's pop out to the garage and check it out. All right, we got the ATOTO F7XE 10-inch in-dash car entertainment center, made in China. I've heard great things about ATOTO, and I'm hoping that this is what I've been looking for. Most Android units appear to be duds. Let's find out if ATOTO's any good. We got some screen covers, we'll save those. We got some manuals and instructions, and the unit itself. Up at the very top, we have the 10-inch touchscreen. Box within a box. So this is probably all the wires and connectors. Primary harness with all the various connections, all the various color codes, looks like standard color codes, with a label on it that peels off with what I'm hoping are additional instructions. Look at that. Everything is labeled. There are tons of goodies in the box. Here is a Wi-Fi antenna. There's a harness with 3 yellow RCA plugs. Yellow is analog video. One is labeled rear camera input and the others are labeled as outputs. Here's the microphone for voice commands and hand-free calling. You got a doubled-in opening. This goes in the bottom of the doubled-in opening and it makes a pocket. And it is, of course, a single DIN size. You can see where the 10-inch screen plugs into here. On the back of the radio, you've got a ton of RCA plugs. Across the top row, you have a subwoofer out, which is yellow, which is the standard video color, a video out, and a video in. Then you have 4 channels of RCA outputs plus a pair of RCA inputs. There are plugs on the back for USB, an FM antenna, a Wi-Fi antenna, and what looks like to be a Sirius XM radio connector. The screen is huge. The radio came with some mounting wings for installation, as well as a cage if you want to cage mount it. You will of course need a dash kit to install it in your car. I'm going to connect the wings, that way in a minute when I connect the touchscreen, the entire thing will sit level on my test bench while I'm filming and testing this thing out. On the front left of the unit, there's a built-in microphone plus another USB plus an auxiliary in and a reset button. On the other side, there is a micro USB card slot. If you plan to use that card slot, I recommend that you plug it in before you mount the screen. These may be hard to reach after the unit is installed in the dash and the screen is mounted on top of it. The screen itself is fully adjustable. Here you can see 3 screws. These 2 here are for the tilt feature. If you need to adjust the tilt, the middle screw has to be removed, and then you've got to loosen that outer screw. You can choose between 4 tilt angles. For the first one, you line up the top hole with the bottom hole. For the second one, you line up the bottom hole to the bottom hole. The next setting is flat, no tilt at all. And to do that, you line up the top hole to the top hole. The final setting actually tilts the screen down. For that, you line up the top hole with the bottom hole. I'm going to set mine to flat. From there, if you want, you can slide the screen up or down by removing this screw right here. There's one just like it on the other side. Attaching the screen is actually pretty easy. You just slide the screen into the main unit. And then you just screw in these screws right here along the top. I'm going to set it all up here on the test bench, power it on, and do some measurements. I'm going to connect everything using these terminal strips. And while we're doing that, I want to say thank you to my patrons with a bonus shout out to Bo, David T, Bam Bam, Dylan, and Baba. The wires fall, all of the standard color schemes for aftermarket car audio. If you don't know what those are, tell me about it down in the comments and I'll make a video explaining the industry standard color codes. Here I'm plugging in the Wi-Fi antenna and you've got a great view of the RCA connections. In goes the microphone and then off comes the plastic on the touchscreen. And and the unit powers up with no issue. From the menu, you can choose from various inputs such as the radio or Android Auto, and you can swipe right for more options, including the camera inputs. To test out the backup camera, I'm going to plug in this camera here. This is an NVX camera that I picked up a few weeks ago that I'm eventually going to install in my truck whenever I upgrade it. Backup camera works just fine, exactly as it's supposed to. I'll be sure to give you a link to this backup camera and everything else that you see in the video down in the video description. If you hit the EQ icon, you get fader and balance, and then hit this button right over here and you get a 10-band equalizer. Android Auto connects with no issue. It even pulls up the last podcast I was listening to and immediately pulls up my map so that I can navigate. Not that I'm going to navigate sitting on my workbench. Did you know that you can play Apple Music on an Android phone? A lot of people don't know that. The sound quality is just fine, right in line with what you would expect for an inexpensive entry-level head unit. But of course, on an inexpensive entry-level head unit, you're not going to get a 10-inch touchscreen, Android Auto, and Apple CarPlay. Hey, listen for yourself. Here is a copyright-free track from the YouTube library. Okay, so I was off camera just playing some music, just enjoying it a little bit, and I walked over here and I immediately smelled it. It has definitely gotten hot, and you can smell it, kind of a burn smell. It was still playing just fine. It was not showing any signs of distress as I was playing it, but it definitely heated up. It doesn't feel warm to the touch. Back here around the heatsink is warm. What we're going to do now is hook up the SMD DD1 Plus, and I'm going to show you how loud this thing can play before we clip. So there we go. It starts clipping at 48 out of 50. All right, now we're going to grab some RCAs, and the way this SMD device works, you can just plug an RCA right into the device, which is super cool. And then we'll connect the RCAs on the back of the device and see where the RCAs clip. All right. All right, that is all the way up without clipping. All right, we're in the settings menu now, and there is a subwoofer filter at 120 Hertz, so it has an adjustable filter. There is an output on or off for the subwoofer, and there's a subwoofer level. Let's go ahead and pull the sub level all the way up to 14. There you go, clipping at 48, not clipping at 47. And notice on the SMD, it's not displaying voltage, so it's not picking up voltage. We might have to grab our multimeter to read the voltage. All right, got multimeter leads into an RCA. Let's see if we can get the multimeter to read the AC voltage. We'll turn it to AC voltage. We will pause the track, plug this into the subwoofer output. The SMD device doesn't always read low levels of voltage, and what we can see right here on the scope, we have clipping at 1.87 volts. All right, there's our wave, and now let's pop it up to the next level where the SMD device was showing clipping, and you can see right there that waveform went wonky as all get out. So at 48 it clips, at 47 it doesn't, and we're not even getting 2 volts out of the subwoofer output. Let's check the other outputs and see what we get out of them. All right, we got a 40 Hertz 0 dB test track going through the main RCAs. Let's play it and see what we got. We have no distortion. We have 1.17 volts, volume of 48, no clipping. So there we go, 49 out of 50, no clipping. Waveform looks a little bit wonky, 1.49 volts. So we can go all the way to 49, but we don't even get 2 volts out of the preamp section of this thing. And it is warm to the touch. It's not smelling anymore, but that's much hotter than I thought it would get in just the preamp section connected. All right, now I want to grab my DIY RTA and play some pink noise to verify that we get a flat signal. You can see on the RTA that the bass levels are a bit higher. That's probably due to the calibration file that I loaded onto the app. Hey, let's check out the subwoofer out. You can clearly see the impact of the subwoofer crossover. And while we're doing some serious testing, why don't we hook up the resistor bank and grab the AMM1 and see how much power this thing puts out. One thing that I found interesting, you'll notice right here, we don't even get a single watt out of the speaker outputs until about volume level 35. and then the power ramps up quickly. We get 15 watts at 1% total harmonic distortion, and the AMM one never shows clipping. My overall assessment is positive. This is the first kind of generic off-brand head unit that I've actually tried that works. It functions like a normal head unit. It does what a head unit is supposed to do. Plus it has the Android Auto and the Apple CarPlay and that big bright screen with clear, crisp colors. I gotta say, I'm hooked on that big screen. I might have to install it in my truck. Now, of course, if you wanted to buy a name brand 10-inch screen Android Auto, Apple CarPlay radio, you would need to spend close to $1,000. So this thing comes in quite a bit cheaper. And the thing to remember is it's good for what it actually is. It's not a high fidelity sound quality radio, but nothing else can match the features of this unit at its price point. Plus, it actually works. To see some examples of head units that don't work, click right here. I'm Justin, also known as the DIY Audio Guy. Hit this button right over here to subscribe, and I will see you on the next adventure.